everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Cretaceous Chronicles. My name is Domenic, and I'm here with one of many, hopefully many, of our guests, Sam. So in this podcast, we're going to mainly be talking about the Netflix shows Jurassic World Chaos Theory and Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, because that's sort of a common show that we both like.
Yeah, it's been a trip down memory lane for me to get into it because all the tie-ins from the, obviously the Jurassic World movies, but, I was the Jurassic Park generation, and I was in, I want to say, third grade, fourth grade when the first Jurassic Park came out, and I remember it was such a pop culture iconic sort of thing because of what they were doing with special effects. It was the next
100%.
leap at the time, and it was such a phenomenon. And I still remember vividly when it came out, how the waves that it made. So it's really cool for me. I'd sort of not been connected with it for so long, and I kind of stumbled upon Camp Cretaceous, and then Dom got me into it by talking to him, and then all of a sudden watching it and being like, wait a minute, like, wow, there's all these connections to it. And I had seen the first Jurassic World movie when that one came out with Chris Pratt, and then realizing it was like happening at the same time, but sort of on a different part of the island, but all these tie-ins was really, really cool. And so it's been really fun to kind of get back into that world all these years later now.
Yeah, so when Jurassic World came out, I was in third grade, I think it was the summer that I was going into third grade, and that's definitely like what kickstarted my whole dinosaur arc. So I admittedly was too afraid to watch any of the movies at first, but I was really into the Lego game for like Xbox and PlayStation and like all these consoles. So I remember like growing up on that, and then it was summer going into sixth grade when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out. So that's when I sort of was starting to get interested in the entirety of the franchise, and as well as just learning more about dinosaurs. And well, now I'm here years later and like never grew out of my dinosaur phase. And in fact, I'm probably going to go pursue paleontology as a career after college and stuff.
That's the coolest thing to me. I had a huge dinosaur phase when I was a kid. But at some point I sort of grew on, and I always found them really interesting. And it would be like if I learned something new, even as like a high schooler, or like I'd remember back to being a kid and how just fascinating I found dinosaurs. But I think it's so cool that that's what you're looking at doing. Like, it's so awesome. And I didn't realize, I thought for you, the love of Jurassic World and Park came from already wanting to be like a love of dinosaurs. But are you saying that it was the reverse? You were introduced to Jurassic World, and then that's what kickstarted your love of dinosaurs?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I thought it was the reverse.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So the Lego game, how did that work? What did you, because my son Jack, who I think will join us from time to time on this, because Jack's really into it. But we've been trying to find a game for his iPad, and he's just getting so frustrated with the couple that we found. There's one that's like a sort of like survival game where you're just running and diving and jumping, and he has a hard time with that. And there's one where you're like, what's cool about it is it will download where you are and use your location, and it'll show like dinosaurs in the map of like where we actually are.
Is that Jurassic World Alive?
I think so. You're like supposed to like take DNA samples and stuff. But he gets kind of bored with that one. So what did you do in the Lego game? Because I think I saw one when I was scrolling through potential apps on his, but it was hard to figure out which one I should try and download.
So the Lego game I was interested in was, I believe, a console game. So, so basically you're going through the events of the first four movies, because the Lego Jurassic World game came out alongside Jurassic World. So like you're sort of going through the events, and obviously the events are sort of more PG-ified.
Yep.
So like there's like, I think like the most gruesome scene is like the scene with from Jurassic Park, Donald Gennaro getting eaten by the T-Rex. But then like there's one scene where like at the very end where like the T-Rex like just burps him out like it's nothing. Let's see. I remember the scene where they feed the cow to the velociraptors.
Yeah.
What happens is like you don't see this, but like the Lego cow switches out with the guy operating the crane. And the guy from the crane is just suspended and he gets lowered into the raptor paddock and they like rip off all his clothes.
It's funny that you mentioned like PG, because I thought that was something that Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory both navigated so well, is that the danger's real, people get eaten, and it's scary, but it's also not something that like younger kids can't watch because the camera always cuts away just at the right moment.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not gruesome, but you know someone just got eaten and you see the reactions on the faces of the main characters like in response to like someone getting eaten, but it's not gruesome, so like younger kids can watch it. Yeah,
there are a couple scenes in like I want to say Chaos Theory where you can like I remember one scene in episode 3, I believe, where a guy gets killed and you can like sort of see his lifeless body hanging from his car. There was also a scene later on in season 1 of Chaos Theory where one of the dinosaurs pulls a guy out of a car. So we'll go more into depth about those episodes later on. But yeah, there's definitely a couple scenes where like you can kind of see it, but there's no like blood, there's no guts.
Yeah.
There's no real like vulgar language other than like, oh crud is the worst of it.
What is it? What do you think it is about dinosaurs that it just clicked for you and you're like, that's what I want to study. That's what I want to do is
originally what I wanted to do is I wanted to open up a petting zoo was my like what I originally wanted to do after college and stuff. But then I sort of like did a little bit more digging and I realized that like paleontology is a really good career. It's really high paying, like it's like you're well off. And so originally how I had it was I wanted to do like animal stuff as a business, but then like be interested in dinosaurs as a hobby. But now it's sort of flip-flopped where like I want to have dinosaurs as a career, but then like, I don't know, take care of animals as a side thing. But I don't know, like my interest with dinosaurs, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like sort of learning more about like the complex nature and like the like which like what I'm really interested in with dinosaurs is which dinosaurs lived with which dinosaurs. Cause like with modern animals, you got to factor in like where they live. But with dinosaurs, you also have to factor in like when they lived, because like you might find 2 dinosaurs that are from the same location, but they might have been from different time periods, and like sort of piecing together those like food webs and ecosystems is like always what fascinated me. So I don't know, just the sheer complexity of like, and like I've really been interested in like what people don't see about dinosaurs is really what got to me.
It is so true. You forget, because it's been so long since I was like really in the dinosaur phase, of how long a period dinosaurs were on this earth for. And so you had some species go extinct long before other species even came into existence. So it's really fascinating as you think about like, oh, well, how did all these different predators stack up to each other? But then it's like, well, so many of these apex predators didn't even live at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Jurassic Park and World, which I'm sure we'll talk about more, sort of created this sort of debate of like the T-Rex versus the Spinosaurus and which one really would have. But it's like they didn't even live at the same time. And from what I've read, I think it seems like the impression I got watching the movies was the Jurassic Park franchise was like well, we've already introduced the T-Rex, so now we need to create an even scarier bad guy.
Yes.
But that in reality, while the Spinosaurus may have been a bit longer than the T-Rex, it doesn't feel like the science, from what my understanding, is that the Spinosaurus probably would have actually been able to take a T-Rex one-on-one. That the T-Rex significantly more powerful
Yes,
built.
significantly stronger bite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World seems like they've taken some liberties here and there with, and that's one that I'm a little disappointed in, is that, you know, they've walked back some of the other things, I think, over the years, but that in Chaos Theory, they didn't really fully walk away from this sort of Spinosaurus that they created of being like the scariest of the big bad dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know, one thing it made me think about is, if I am not mistaken, in the first Jurassic Park, I remember sort of one of the liberties they took, because there's no way of us knowing, is that didn't they make it so that that T-Rex couldn't see you if you weren't moving? It could only,
Yes.
But they've kind of abandoned that, right? Am I mistaken that they because I don't think that they've gone back to that. Like, if you think about, they used that same Rexy in the first Jurassic World, and then Rexy, as they call her, in the Camp Cretaceous. But I don't remember them being like, if you just don't move, she won't see you. Like, I feel like they've kind of gotten away from that.
Yeah, there have been like a couple times during a couple of the episodes where like they wouldn't outright say like don't move, but like they also like wouldn't move either. But like definitely there were some scenes where like there wouldn't be like a whole lot of movement, but it would like still go after them, because in reality, like, T-Rex was the apex predator of its time and location. It would have had great sense of smell, great sense of hearing, great sense of sight, like all those acute senses that an apex predator would need to survive. So yeah, I definitely see what you mean about like the whole, like, it's attracted to them even though they aren't really moving.
Yeah. You know, do you remember, so you said that when you were in like around the third grade is when you first kind of got introduced to it, but you were too scared to watch.
Yes.
But you played the games. Do you remember the first time you watched some of the movies and which movie you started with?
The first movie I watched was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And I watched that over a friend's house. It was the summer that it came out. It might have been like the start of the school year, but it was when it came out. They got a DVD and they put it on. And yeah, that was my first time watching a movie, like one of the movies. And then since then, I've been like after that, I've been getting my toes wet with the other movies, to the point where when Dominion came out, like almost 3 years ago, I think it was, I went to go see it like that opening weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for you, the show is like a family event, right? Like
yes.
You and your whole...
So when Camp Cretaceous Season 1 first came out, we all sat down and we watched it, the entire season, in one night. And so that sort of set the precedent for Chaos Theory and Camp Cretaceous going forward, is when a new season comes out, we all sit down and we watch it.
That's so awesome. You know, it's like that sort of at my house, but we didn't discover it until all of Camp Cretaceous was out and the first season of Chaos Theory was out. And my kids, who are 8 and 3, and my youngest, Avi, who's 3, is just obsessed with dinosaurs now. But we were just churning through it. And I was like, at first I was kind of watching it on the peripheries, and then I was like, wow, this show's really good. And then when the second season of Chaos Theory came out, we were caught up at that point. Remember, you and me were talking about leading up to it, and then my son Jack wound up being homesick from school the day that it came out, and he and I just watched all 10 episodes that day. And you were like, whoa, episode 3, and I was just like, well, I can't say anything because we just got through the whole...
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one was weird because it came out on a Thursday, whereas all the other seasons of Camp Cretaceous and the first season of Chaos Theory came out on Fridays. But I had an event for I had a college thing where they sort of talked about financial aid. So because of that, like the entire time I was sitting through that event, I was thinking, I want to go home and watch Chaos Theory. I want to watch Chaos Theory. So we were able to watch the first 3 episodes that night, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And then that following Friday night, we watched the rest of the season, and it was incredible.
So I remember, like I said earlier, when the first Jurassic Park came out, and I was in the 3rd or the 4th grade.
Yeah, it came out in 1993.
What part of 1993?
It was June 11th.
Okay, so that would have been... So I remember it coming out that summer. So that would have been the 93, 94 school year. I'm dating myself here. Big time, because Dom's a senior in high school. I am 40 years old. So I'm not a senior in high school. So let me think. The summer before 4th grade for me that it came out. And I remember it just explosion immediately. And I remember seeing it at the drive-in movie theater in Wellfleet, Cape Cod, with my mom and one of my friends who I think it was definitely one of my really good friends, my younger brother maybe. And it was such a big movie event. And came out in June, by July, the theme song was everywhere. And so we used to go to the fireworks on the Esplanade in Boston, the big fireworks show here. And the Boston Pops is always out there playing, and they played the theme song for Jurassic Park as one of the pieces of music that they performed. And that was like, it's like 1 month in, and it's like, wow, it's already being played by the Boston Pops at the 4th of July. Like, this is a big deal.
Wow.
And, the next 2 movies really kind of fell short to me. Like, they just never really, I don't think the script or the plot or any of the was as good on the next 2 Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah. From what I've heard from like other people reviewing it, they said like The Lost World was like one of the only good Jurassic Park sequels is what they all said. Honestly, not my favorite, not my least favorite. I did like Jurassic Park 3. I definitely love that like sort of like decrepit vibe of Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, one of the things that I really liked from the Jurassic World movies. Yeah. The first Jurassic World movie, which would be my summer going into 3rd grade.
Yep. And so what was the title of the first Jurassic?
That was just Jurassic World.
Okay, Jurassic World. Yeah, I couldn't remember if there was a subtitle for that. But what was really cool and really like the nostalgia level was on like 1 billion for me was when Jurassic World, the first of the new Jurassic World series, came out.
Yes.
I went to see it because love Chris Pratt from the Avengers and loved him from the Lego movies. I think he's hilarious.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was also this, like, it had been so long, and I heard or I read in some news story about they revisit the old park, and I'm like, that piqued my interest, just that little tidbit, because when I say it was one of the cultural phenomenon that, like, defined my childhood, it really, really, really was. It was everywhere, and, like, Jeep sales went through the roof because of it. And so when they, in the Jurassic World, went back to the ruins of the original Jurassic Park, and you see the old Jeep and the old gate, it was just like, oh my God, hair standing on the back of my neck, because I just could remember the feeling of being that young and seeing that movie and just kind of realizing at the time, like, wow, this is a big deal. And I mean, it really was with everything that happened with, with special effects. Like, there's a couple of movies that sort of built off of each other, in my understanding now, years later in my sort of career at working in video production, is Terminator 2, when it came out, was the evolution of special effects was just massive. And then Jurassic Park was like the next one that just like what they did with special effects was huge. So the revisiting of it in Jurassic World was so cool. And then they did it again in Camp Cretaceous, which was so cool to me.
In season 3 when they went to the original visitor center. Yeah. And then even in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom with when they first encountered Blue the Velociraptor and she jumps on the turned over Jeep, or not Jeep, the Ford Explorer, that scene.
That was so cool. And I mean, of course, obviously, the dinosaur that originally was sort of referred to as Rexy, not on camera, but the T-Rex from the first Jurassic Park movie, which then they bring back in the Jurassic World movie, which was, amazing.
Yes.
The way they did it at the time. But then you really see a lot more of Rexy in Camp Cretaceous.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny, in Camp Cretaceous, they're calling her Rexy. But that whole name, I think, sort of originated as like a cast and crew sort of reference that was never really, I don't think, was called that. I might be mistaken. But I don't think on camera, on screen, was referred to actually by the name Rexy until Camp Cretaceous.
Oh, yeah, that scene when season 2, episode 1, when they're on the walkie-talkies, Sammy, one of the characters, says Rexy's heading back to her nest, and that is like the defining moment where, okay, her official name is Rexy.
Yep, that was really, really, really cool. So what is it? Because to me, Camp Cretaceous was just phenomenal, and all of the tie-ins to the other movies were so great. But for me, it's funny because Camp Cretaceous made me go back and watch the other Jurassic World movies. Not the reverse. It wasn't, I watched the Jurassic World movies, now I'm into Camp Cretaceous. I feel like Camp Cretaceous and then Chaos Theory is even next level. But
yeah,
I feel like the writing and the character development and the stories and the plot line, Camp Cretaceous and then Chaos Theory even more so, more compelling, I think, than a lot of the Jurassic World movies, I think, to me.
Yeah, no, I agree, because with all the movies, as good as they are, they're like just one moment in this entire timeline. With Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory, it's like all the in-between events. So in between Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, in between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, like especially with Chaos Theory, that whole just going into so much detail about like what happens in between all of these events. So that's what's so compelling, is that like it's really filling in all the gaps.
So I know in subsequent episodes of this show, we're gonna get into the specific episodes of the show and all that. This is sort of a general overview, introduction. But I'm curious, if I had to say, Dom, give me your 5 favorite dinosaurs, maybe not from the show, but just dinosaurs in general that you've learned about. Could you give me your 5 favorite dinosaurs? So,
favorite dinosaur, all-time favorite, is Velociraptor. And no, I'm not talking about the 6-foot-tall, scaly, featherless ones. I'm talking about size of a turkey, covered in feathers. Velociraptor. Second favorite dinosaur is a dinosaur that Velociraptor would have regularly hunted, and that is Protoceratops, which is like it's smaller than a Triceratops. It was around the size of a sheep, and didn't have any horns, but like it was like a relative of Triceratops. Third favorite is probably a dinosaur called Maiasaura, because of the evidence that Maiasaura took care of its young. Like, we've had fossilized nests discovered of Maiasaura, indicating that like they nurtured their young. They lived in these huge families. Fourth favorite dinosaur, and probably my favorite dinosaur from the franchise, definitely the Carnotaurus. The meat-eating bull, it's like these tiny arms, these horns coming out from its head. Like, there's just something about the Carnotaurus that's like super menacing, and especially in Chaos Theory and Camp Cretaceous and like throughout the Jurassic franchise. And then my 5th favorite dinosaur, purely by name, dinosaur with the coolest name, is Dreadnoughtus, which is this big long-necked dinosaur that you see in Dominion, is living in Biosyn Valley. So yeah, so that's probably my top 5.
So it's interesting. So the Carnotaurus is a dinosaur I'd really forgotten about from childhood until watching Camp Cretaceous, because there is a specific Carnotaurus that is recurring.
Yes.
Named Toro.
Toro.
My kids obsessed. I got each of them a toy Carnotaurus dinosaur.
Nice.
Because they have a bunch of small toy dinosaurs. Well, you know, like this big.
Yeah.
Sell them at Barnes and Noble is a specific brand of them. They're really cool. They have the mouths that open. They're not a Jurassic World or Park.
Oh.
They're
okay.
But they're really cool. And my kids love that. And it's interesting because you think of like the T-Rex as having like little arms.
Yes.
But proportionally, the Carnotaurus's arms look like they are the smallest proportionally
like,
out of.
They're practically vestigial.
Yeah, well, they serve almost basically no purpose. So I think those are really fascinating. Yeah. The Ankylosaurus is one that I have developed a new appreciation for.
Yes.
I think when people think about the sort of herbivores that could defend themselves in ways other than just being gigantic, you think about Stegosaurus, you think about Triceratops, but the Ankylosaurus seems like it was really up there as far as formidable defensive capability.
Yes, it was basically the tank of the dinosaurs. Like, not even a full-grown T-Rex would choose outright to mess with an Ankylosaurus.
Yeah, what's been really cool to me in the show is learning about the different carnivores, because it's funny, when I was a kid, I was much more into the herbivores. I was like Brachiosaur, you know, whatever the biggest ones were, I thought was cool. But it's been very interesting learning about all the different ones. So I don't know if we should come up with a segment where I just ask you who would win hypothetically, and you can tell me who you think would win.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we call that like the Raptor Report or something.
Yes.
That segment could be the Raptor Report. In the Raptor Report, it's been interesting for me looking up like the different dinosaurs, and Majungasaurus is one that is introduced in Chaos Theory. Pretty scary dinosaur. One of my favorite episodes, the first episode, season 2, because it's a storm. I love the scene. I love the setting, rainstorm, everything.
Yes.
But it's not, any dinosaur, don't get me wrong. If you transported it to today, it would be terrifying if it was a carnivore to us, but I thought, based on how the show portrayed it, like, gonna be bigger, but it seems like the Majungasaurus, smaller than certainly T-Rex, smaller than, Giganotosaurus, smaller than Spinosaurus, smaller than Allosaurus.
It was pretty small carnivore.
Who do you think, Majungasaurus or a Carnotaurus? Who do you think's winning that?
I want to say Carnotaurus.
Cool.
Which is funny enough, they were in the same family of carnivorous dinosaurs. You could tell by their shortened face that they were, and their really tiny arms, that they were in the same family.
I'm thinking episode 2, we kind of start diving into the series, the characters, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think? I guess as sort of a preview, what are the things that really grabbed you about Camp Cretaceous? Because I assume that you saw that before Chaos, and you did, because you told me that you. So what was it about Camp Cretaceous that hooked you?
What hooked me about Camp Cretaceous was, again, the whole, this takes place, in the same timeline, but from a different perspective. Watching season 1, you see, you could start to see the character development, and you can see, some of the characters, not gonna, name drop just yet, but, some of the characters definitely, come in and they have scars from, past trauma, and, we'll get into it, as we go on, and like throughout the entire course, like you'll see the characters develop and you'll see their scars show.
It is very, 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 very cool to me. And maybe we should have my wife on at some point, because she's watched all of it too. My wife is a therapist and a trauma therapist. So, but for a show that can captivate a younger audience, they really show trauma, which is really, and the long-term scars that you can't see that last with people even after they've survived something terrible.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the things that's really compelling. All 6 of the Nublar 6, they call them, characters who, what age are they? Early high school when it starts? I'm a little unclear on the first season 1. They're like younger teenagers, I think, or they, 14,
I want to say I think the age definitely varies.
Okay, yeah.
But like somewhere like in their teens when it all starts.
And so it just all the characters, there's a lot of complexity and a lot of compelling stuff to all of the teens. And I think that it just has such wide appeal because you're at the end of your time in high school. You love the show. I'm 40. I love the show. My oldest is 8. He loves the show. My youngest is 3. He loves the show. So it's like it really appeals on different levels.
Yeah, I have a brother. He's just became a teenager a couple months ago. He loves the show.
So it's like, and obviously your parents watch, so I mean, it's very, very cool. The one thing I would say is sort of as a preview, how would you describe why these 6 characters are on Isla Nublar, which is where the original Jurassic Park or the new Jurassic World Park, like, what are they doing there?
They all have different circumstances for why they're going there. So the ones I can think of off the top of my head, one of the characters is obsessed with dinosaurs and he won this competition to go to Camp Cretaceous. The other is this big influencer. One, I believe his mom works at the park and she's trying to get him to get over his fears. One of them got a sponsorship because she's an athlete. The other one is just rich. And then the other one, which so supposedly, like, it's complicated, but she owns a cattle farm in Texas, but she's talked to some other people about why she's going there. So we're not going to spoil too much. You'll have to stay tuned for future episodes so that way we can go into more depth about Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory. So
we will, episode 2 of
the Cretaceous Chronicles.
We will dive into Camp Cretaceous and we'll get into the episodes. So I'm excited, Dom.
Well, I am so hyped for this.
I'm hyped too. I'm pumped. So join us again real soon for episode 2 when we get into Camp Cretaceous episode 1.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in to the Cretaceous Chronicles. I'm Dominic, and I'm here with Sam, signing off.